All right, welcome to iFinance Mortgage. I am your host, Tiffanie Phillips, and today I have Lane Stone with Sackin Stone at Seven Gables Real Estate.
That's right.
So how are you doing?
So Tiffdoesloans meets Sackin Stone team. That's pretty cool.
That is a good team right there.
Yeah, it's a great team. Thanks for having me in. Thanks for letting me sit on this actually quite comfortable couch.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So Lane brings so much to the community, and I just kind of want to, kind of introduce you and what led you into real estate, and then how long that you've been doing it.
Sure. I got licensed as a broker actually in 2012. So it's actually just renewed my license. So 12 years exactly.
Oh, wow.
And at the time I was at Chapman University, and it was like the very bottom of the market. And so I was a business major at Chapman, and there weren't really that many jobs available that intrigued me. And I've always intrigued by real estate. I took a lot of real estate classes at Chapman. Actually, it was an emphasis that they allowed at the time. And I had the classes and the 4-year degree to take the broker's license. So I did it. And as soon as I passed, I was like, you know what, let's just go into business for myself. I don't want to work for anybody else. I like real estate. I'm passionate about it. I enjoyed the classes. I did really well. And let's just start building a career on my own. And so I started when I was 22, and 12 years later, here we are with a nice team of 6 and 3 admin, and we're doing our thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I have personally been to their office, and it is incredible. Your whole team, I feel like I've met most of them, and everybody shares his passion. So just phenomenal. Also, what about you and your partner? So how long has that been the whole time since you started, or was that more recent?
Yeah, great question. So I did start on my own when I was 22. And a year into it, the office manager said, hey, you'd be a really good fit for this guy who's looking to add maybe somebody to his team.
Yep.
And so his name's Scott Sackin. He started in 1988, and it was probably only a year into my young career where I joined his team. And for anybody that's a new agent, or for anybody that's looking to start out, I really do think that starting with the team is really important, because they really throw you in the fire. You don't have to worry about like finding open houses, because open houses are available. Sometimes if there's a buyer that this particular agent can't help with, you're the one that's showing them homes. You're the one that's really, getting out there, hitting the pavement and doing your thing. And so it really took off. Like I was a part of, in my second year, I think it was like 80 some transactions, and that maybe they weren't all mine. Maybe I was helping out, but the fact that a second year, 23-year-old kid that can do at that time 80 some transactions, that was kind of a big deal. So I do recommend joining a team. It just happened to be where our career paths were. I was growing, and even though he's still very much in the business, he's not necessarily as much 30 some years later in like the big growth mindset. So I took over the team lead last year, and so now I'm handling the growth of it, and he's obviously still doing the maintenance and being a big part of the creator for the team. So we've been together for a little over 10 years now.
Wow. And so thank that manager, what a good catch. And like the fact that he went to you and just presented, like, I think you guys will be a good fit.
Yes, so the office manager then is still our office manager today.
Wow.
And she does. So like, so a couple of the team members that are on my team now, she approached me and said, I think they'd be a good fit. And now she was right. They're on my team. I wasn't looking to necessarily grow. Just these team members kind of fell in our lap, and she really knows the personality of us, and she's been affiliated with us for a long time. And so she knows who would work well. And I'm not looking to grow like crazy. I don't want to be like this mega super, what they call team ridge. I don't need a team ridge, but she's a really good like a matchmaker, like a matchmaker. Yeah.
And those people are so valuable. Like, like the way that they could just, there's no like turn back, the way that it just fits, and they wouldn't bring you anybody that they knew that wasn't just gonna fit right in and then just start growing.
Absolutely. Everybody that she's brought our way has been a winner.
Yep.
So.
And I mean, the whole team is winning. So also a highlight for your guys' team, you guys are the number one overall sales team
in our office. Yeah, like out of over 100 and some agents, I think we're top 1% in the nation right now. And last I heard, and again, it's friendly competition, so I'm sure there's others at Seven Gables that are going to hear me say this right now, but I'm pretty sure year to date, I think we are number one in overall sales company wide right now, year to date. So hopefully we can keep that momentum and help a lot of people and continue that.
Well, it seems like you guys have a great group and that passion.
Oh yeah.
So even though that you have this amazing team in this market, I'm sure it's still been definitely we've all had to make pivots and adjustments. So what are some of those things that you and your team have done to keep growing and keep that number one spot?
So yeah, I'm going to say exactly what I told my team. Yep. Working works right now. And I would say that I told them last year, we're going to have to work twice as hard to help basically half as many people or maybe the same amount of people. I don't know, but you have to work more. So I'm definitely logging in more hours in the office. I'm definitely logging in more calls, more text messages, more emails than I ever have been before, more team meetings, more check-ins with the team than I ever have before. But I think we just have to put in the extra time and the extra effort to help people. That's been the biggest pivot. So we're definitely logging more hours of work time. We're treating it like an actual business. Everybody's in the office at 8:30. For those of us that don't have in-person appointments or we're not out there, pounding on the doors, we're staying until after 5. And we're just making sure that this is, people don't realize that a lot of realtors treat it as like a hobby more so than a business. Yeah. And this is a business for us. And I make sure that my team knows that it is, and we have to put in the extra work. So working works right now. I'd say you're right. Last year we did feel a little bit of a slowdown. But you know what? We didn't where we might have been down year over year about 5% total in overall sales. The whole company was down by more than 20%. So I do think putting in the extra effort does help. And then a lot of that extra effort that we put in last year, it built the momentum for this year. And we are like crushing it right now. And even though like sales are like down for a lot of people still. So we're up than we were 2 years ago this year. So we're doing really well, and working is working.
I feel like that's kind of how our team has a similar, we're kind of like a family here. We get together every week. We, try to get new ideas. Everybody's, available to each other. And I feel like this year for me, especially, has still been work. Like, treat it like it's any other time, the follow-up. Like, I think of it like planting all the seeds, like filling up the tool belt.
Yep.
So even if you're going to have to put more hours, you're going to have to work harder, but you just have to know that it is building, it's going to change. And when it does, I feel totally confident that, my team and your team are going to be ready.
For sure. And I would recommend you not doing this on your own either. If you're not, and let's say you're an individual agent, you're not part of a team, maybe get a coach. I have a coach and I'm on a team, and the coach really helps me, make sure that I'm in a good headspace. I'm doing the activities that I need to be doing. I'm making the calls that I need to be making. So just don't do it alone. Obviously be a part of the team. And if you don't have the opportunity to be a part of the team, maybe consider having a coach and having somebody push you to, build the tool belt, as you mentioned.
And this actually leads me into one of my favorite topics, and just how I express to clients. So maybe you can add on to that, how important in this market it is to find their team, like realtor and loan officer, and not just kind of choosing one or, maybe going online, like how we all kind of have to work together. And I feel like you can highlight that pretty well.
How, like, with the importance of like a team and working together as a team?
So for the clients. So
okay.
We're kind of talking at it right now more on like to have that team to succeed. But I have also been, kind of putting that out there to our potential buyers and sellers, how important it is to pick their team, to make sure that they have a team, that there is a huge difference than, like you said, maybe an independent agent that does not have the support of a team, or that it thinks of it like.
So we always say a team outperforms an individual.
Yeah.
I just put together a list of things that we do for our buyers. And do you want to guess how many items were on that list? If you had to guess, like, how many things do we do just for one buyer? Like, you had to guess.
15?
No, it was 103. So we do 103 like individual check boxes for each buyer, right? And now if one agent is helping out, let's say 3, there's over 300 items on that to do through to be able to like properly help that particular buyer. Now, there's a lot of items on there that can be delegated to support members, to staff members, to somebody else on the team, to where us as agents can have more of a hands-on approach with those buyers, so we can be available for the showing, so we can be available for the negotiations. But if you didn't have that team, you're trying to take that on all on your own. You can probably do it, but you're going to be missing some of the activities that you're supposed to be really doing to help out that particular buyer. So a team is really important. Now, from a selling standpoint, there's even more items on there. I haven't counted those ones out yet. I literally just finished the buyer one yesterday, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be exceeding 150 things, because it's going to be a lot more marketing related stuff. So when we do the Google advertising, the Instagram advertising, the Meta, all the digital stuff, the Zillow showcase listings that we're parting out.
Too, right? Do you guys do the farming and the
yes, we do that. But when it comes to individual transactions, helping out sellers, I don't understand, like, for us, of everything that we do, how somebody can do that on their own.
Yeah.
We have a full-time marketing director. We have a full-time transaction coordinator. We have a full-time operations manager, and they're just for our team of 6 agents that help alleviate all those tasks. But we really do think all those tasks are necessary to provide the best experience for our clients.
And that's where I've been trying to highlight more, like, that's just that's just a standard for you and your team, and not every brokerage or realtor team or realtor or like loan officer like ours is the same. Like, we have a family here. But that's where I've been trying to urge that importance, like, really know the team that you have behind you. Like, are you getting these 150 items checked? Like, are they getting that service each time? And I feel like a lot aren't. And that's what has kind of held back some. Yeah. Like, people just aren't getting all of their questions answered, or the right guidance,
or having even somebody available to answer those questions. I can't tell you how many people have said that their agents are like ghosting them, or they only answer their questions 1 hour out of the day or something like that. I pride myself. I mean, I have my phone on me all the time. Yeah. I pride myself on being easily accessible. I pride myself on being able to get back to somebody right away. So I definitely want, like, experience is really important for us, and having clients trust us. So I definitely want to make sure that everybody who hires us has a good experience, and that they continue to remain to trust us, and I'm always going to be there for them.
Yep. And I could personally vouch that is absolutely the case every time.
Thank you.
Yes, him and his team are amazing. And on top of all that, Lane is the numbers guy. So he follows up on all the forecasts. Like, he's really good at basically, I mean, I personally too, just for this information, I always make sure that I'm staying on top of it and, listening to what you have to say on a regular basis. But maybe let's just break down a little bit, like a little forecast update for the sellers, buyers, some numbers of last year versus this year.
Sure.
And kind of, what you've been seeing.
Okay. So I would say that I'm recently a numbers guy, and the only reason why it's recent is because I forced myself to be. I do a lot of reading now. My Twitter, I don't tweet or do anything like that, but everybody that I follow, the only people that I follow are real estate related people, economists, some news people, and then I only look at those feeds. And then so I'm not saying I only get my news from Twitter, but Morning Brew is helpful, but and I do a monthly market update for Orange County. And I recently did one a couple days ago, and I'm not going to remember the exact numbers, but I will let you know that new listings are down year over year. Closed sales are up year over year. And so that is kind of an interesting thing, because if you have fewer listings coming to the market, but then more closed transactions, that means that the limited availability for homes for buyers to look at non-existent. It's depleted. So the available inventory for buyers to look at right now is probably the worst it's been in a really long time. And and the reason why there's more closed sales is because the homes that were sitting on the market are closing as well. And so now the homes that are sitting on the market are like, it's fewer and far between. So a lot of the buyers that I'm helping out with, I look at the average days on the market, and like 75 to 80% of them are a week or less. And then it's only like 25% whether it's like more than 30 days or something like that. And it's because most of the listings now are selling within a week this year. And it's something
They're
happened.
going fast,
Something happened with starting January 1st where it just took off like a rocket again. And it's probably because the available listings for buyers to look at are just non-existent.
So what is your, so while we're on this, what is your prediction kind of for the rest of the year? Like, how should they, we got a lot of buyers still on the sidelines. We got a lot of sellers still holding back on the inventory. So kind of what is your, just from your Twitter research?
So just being in the trenches, so to speak, we're noticing that for our buyers, we're competing against multiple offers again. We're competing against bidding wars again. So it just seemed like homes are appreciating this year. If and when rates do go back down, and let's say even if you have a 5 in front of it again, it's going to go crazy.
Yeah.
Prices are going to go up. And so I've been calling a lot of my buyers that have been on the sidelines and saying this might actually be a sweet spot time. And the reason why I think it could be a sweet spot time is because you can get the home maybe 10% less than what it's going to be next year. And in 6 months, you should have the opportunity to be able to refi, so your payment's going to be less.
Yeah.
So I think it's a sweet spot to get the home cheaper and to still have that lower payment. And so I'm trying to help my buyers get off the sidelines in that particular aspect of it. One thing is last week during the press conference for Jerome Powell had a little press conference, and his tone kind of changed. So even though there isn't any immediate rate decrease happening, he did say that they want to get housing under control. And initially the sentiment on that was, we have to, like, housing's out of control. We need to increase the rates to bring the prices down. He said that they kind of made a mistake. He basically said that he didn't anticipate homeowners not wanting to sell because they don't want to give up their low interest rate. And so what he said now, and is a total change of tone from what he said before, was we need to get rates back down.
Yes.
So that way more activity happens, right? So that way there's more activity happening. Sellers are willing to sell again. There's more inventory for buyers to choose from. So that way home prices don't go crazy because there's a lack of inventory, but then also with the rates being lower, buyers can get a lower rate. So it's a total change in tone of where they want to go. So I do think that the rates will come down, and I know that the Fed wants them to come down. It's just we're getting a little bit hotter inflation reports than we want. So I guess that's a long-winded answer. I'm so sorry, world.
No, that is perfect. Like everything, I mean, it really does help to kind of have it, described by you on the floor, and just taking that information and explain it in a way where it does make sense for, like what you're saying, that sweet spot.
Yeah.
It's like so important. And I have also been urging that, to a lot of my clients, is that, like, I know they're still a little high, but like you said, that sweet spot right now, we do know that they are going to go down. We just don't know when. Yeah. But it's still,
do the math on $1 million home. So $1 million home, 20% down at today's rate. Yeah. If rates go down to 5, and then maybe you wait a year when they do go down to 5-ish, 5 and something, but the houses appreciate 10%, 5% on a 1.1 is probably going to be a higher payment than if you bought the house today and maybe you're at a 6 something at $1 million, and then you had to have a little bit higher of a payment for a year, and then refi it down to 5 something because your loan amount's still going to be the same. It's going to be 10% less than it would be if you waited.
And now you have the equity.
And you're building into the equity.
And you have that appreciation.
I will say this though too. Some buyers, it's situational. So some buyers that I know that only are looking at like a 2 or 3 year plan, and maybe they want to sell to use the equity to buy something. Maybe there's the one case that might not be fit for them. But if you're looking at a long-term play, in the history of real estate, nobody's really ever lost money in an 8-year cycle. So even if you bought at the peak of 2007, 8 years later, you're break even. So a lot of the buyers that I'm looking at is, can you see yourself in this home for 8 to 10 years? Because let's say I was wrong, and let's say things like crashed overnight. Can you just live in that house for 8 to 10, make the payments for 8 to 10 years, and then you'll make a comeback. Yeah. 8 to 10 years, 8 years later. But I would say 10, just so like they can mentally picture themselves in the house for 10 years. And most of the buyers that have stable jobs that are looking at houses right now, they can see themselves in this home for 10 years. So then don't time the market. Like just get into it.
To start building.
Yeah, because now look back at the peak of 2007, looking back on it, how many of us wish that we bought homes at those prices?
Yep.
Right.
It's 2020. I mean,
2020.
everybody I've talked to that purchased, it was still also a scary time for the and the market was completely different, multiple offers, like definitely still different than what it is now, but it was still a scary time. And everyone that I've talked to that has bought, I mean, the appreciation that's already, I mean, somebody I just talked to, it was like 7% each year. So they've already like doubled what they put down.
There was one year, I think it was 2021, where the average American homeowner made more money on their house than they did in their career.
Yeah.
And I think the average appreciation was close to 100 grand, and the average income was like 75 or something like that. So the American was making more on their home that was a crazy year.
Yeah.
But let me use like an analogy with travel. So like in 2020, travel was non-existent.
Yep.
And people still want to travel.
Yep.
Right. But fast forward to today, travel is higher than pre-pandemic levels. Same thing with homes. Like last year, there was the fewest amount of homes in over 20 years. You're going to fast forward. Just because there was the fewest amount of homes in over 20 years didn't mean people wanted to buy or sell. It was just people were waiting or they were on the sidelines. You're going to fast forward to a year or two, and it's going to be crazier than it was before because they're all going to come rushing back, and they're all going to be buyers and sellers again.
Going to be at the same time too.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think that this is the sweet spot. I've been trying to get that out there. Like as they go up, because even if you do got to take that higher rate right now, like you said, in 6 months, and you can refinance and you got the appreciation in your home.
And I'm putting
when they raise them for, once everybody comes off the sidelines, now you're already in. And that's already building for you.
Yeah, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm actively looking for investment property right now too, because I do think that there's plenty of opportunity out there. I will say too, for sellers that are on the sidelines, I think this is kind of a unique thing to where, like, picture it's like the hottest summer of the year, and you're an ice cream shop, but you're the only ice cream shop in the city. Everyone's going to go to you.
Yep.
That's what it's like to be a seller right now. Everyone's just going to come to you because you're going to be the only good listing out there, and there's plenty of buyers that are actively looking. So it's a really good opportunity to be a seller. Even Warren Buffett's philosophy is buy when people are selling and sell when people are buying. Yep. There's plenty of demand right now, but there's nobody selling. So this might be a good time to be a seller too.
That is, and I feel like a lot of sellers aren't looking at that aspect either. Again, it's just they're holding on to that rate that it might be a little higher for them. I understand the ones that are in the 2%, and kind of back to what you were saying with the 8 to 10 years. I feel like that it's more of an issue now that I feel like a lot of sellers that did buy in 2020 didn't really have that expectation of having to stay in them longer. Like now I feel like a lot of our sellers like kind of feel stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, and
it wasn't pitched like that. Like we weren't out here talking about it, and the rates were so low. And
that's the thing. And I do feel like there's a lot of sellers that feel stuck, but it's like really hard to give up that 2% interest rate. And why wouldn't you? And why would you? And maybe that might not help the inventory case either, because they're going to just keep that house and rent it if they end up buying something else. So I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's really going to happen, obviously, but there's a reason why I think a lot of investors are ditching commercial and going into residential right now too, because there's a lot of opportunity in residential. I think there's still going to be a lot of opportunity in residential, and just because if you're fearful of a recession, just because there's a recession doesn't mean that there's a housing crash. In the last 5 recessions, homes actually appreciated in value during 3 of them. So don't always correlate a recession with a housing crash, because that's not always going to be the case.
Yep. And I feel like when we look at the numbers too, the investors are still the ones. Why are they still buying if it wasn't a good time? And this is going to be my final question for you.
Okay.
The $1 million question, Lane, is now the time to buy, and why are the investors still doing it?
Okay, so again, I'll go back to it being situational. It depends on your situation, but for the average American, and if they qualify, with you, of course, for the average American family that is looking to establish themselves in a home and they're planning on being there for longer than 8 years, don't worry about timing. Now's the time to buy. If you can afford today's payment, especially think about what it's going to be like after you refinance to a lower payment. So I do think that if the situation is perfect, you should be able to buy right now. You should want to buy right now. I do think it's a sweet spot for most buyers right now. If you're looking just to time it for like 2 years and then try to use the equity to cash out, like, even though I think you're going to be fine, and I would, if I was going to Vegas, I'd bet on you being fine. That's a little bit more of a risk to take, and we'd have to like run numbers on that a little bit more. But for the average American, for 80% of the buyer pool out there, get off the sidelines. Now's your sweet spot. Buy the house now while it's 10% cheaper than it will be next year or more, because we've seen over 20% appreciation during a really hot market post 2020. So it could be more. It could be 20% more. The $1 million house today could be 1.2 tomorrow, like next year. Who knows? So I do think that you should buy now before that happens. Refi when the rates go down, and you'll love the payment. You'll love the payment. Even for my house right now, I'm one of the ones that's in it too.
That's amazing.
I could care less. I could care less if it crashes, if my house goes down by 25-30% in value tomorrow, because I'm so happy with the payment. I couldn't even find a rental for this size house for what I'm paying. And I do think that for a lot of people that are paying crazy rent, because rent's going up too,
might as well be building that.
Build your own wealth, build your own equity. Absolutely. So hopefully that answered the question.
It did. Yeah. No, it was perfect. Perfect. Lane, I just want to thank you so much for joining me today.
Sure.
And seriously, everybody in Huntington Beach, in that area, the Sackin Stone team at Seven Gables Real Estate, they're like on top of it. The market, efficiency, the customer service. So definitely check them out. I will put all of his links in there as well. And thank you for joining.
Tiffdoesloans. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah.